What's up, everybody? Welcome to another Get Shit Done episode. My name is Josh, and we're going to dive into 10 sins of communication. Now, these are not in any particular order. They're just in order as how I wrote them down. But I want to go through each of them, talk about them a little bit, and I'm going to begin with complaining. Complaining is so often confused as problem solving. People think because they complain that it's going to solve the problem. I don't really understand the mindset of that, but it is so commonly practiced. Complaining doesn't solve problems. Complaining just intoxicates those that you're complaining to, and especially when you're complaining to someone that cannot solve your problem. Now, complaining is not the same as venting. I do believe that sometimes you need to vent. Someone needs to listen, and they don't need to assist you in problem solving, but it's okay to lead with that. It's okay to tell someone, hey, I need to vent real quick about this thing. Often when people vent, they will discover a solution on their own once they kind of express the emotion out of their mindset and get it out in front of them. But complaining is one of these sins of communication. The second one is excuses. People making excuses. The old adage, excuses are like assholes, everybody's got one. People don't really care. And excuses to me are just weak justifications as to why you did something. Another way that I look at excuses is you give yourself permission to not do what you needed to do. So when you look at excuses, people always say you need to stop making excuses. I want to peel that back one more layer and tell you need to stop giving yourself permission to make excuses. And I think that's a little bit deeper than just not making excuses. So excuses are a sin of communication. Lying is I could just say the word lying and you would understand what I'm talking about. But I think lying is so often used as a tool for manipulation that you're using it to control someone to get a result for yourself. The other side of lying is people are terrified to be wrong. They are terrified to be discovered as something other than what they want to be perceived as. And lying is used as this coding, this covering to try to create this perception. But it doesn't get you anywhere. It is a tremendous sin of communication. Next is dogma. Dogmatism is really interesting. And honestly, I think it's one of the most rampant problems with communication today, because dogma is where you take a piece of fact or piece of truth, you blend it with your own definition or your own adage. So you take a piece of fact, you blend it with your perception, your belief, and you deliver it as truth. And it's really easy to be dogmatic. It's really easy to take a piece of fact and fuck it up with our own perception, our own thought process, and we really kind of reshape this thing, and then we want to hand it back to people as if it was the fact itself. Dogma, again, is like lying, is often used for manipulation. It's a weak parenting tactic, by the way. Being dogmatic, being manipulative. Another sin of communication is negativity. Negativity. We all know someone that no matter what, they are negative about it. They always find the negative. And if they can't find the negative, they create the perception of negativity. Negativity is highly, highly infectious. These people just suck the energy out of you. You can be around them. They wouldn't even have to say anything, but their body language, their energy alone just draws you down. And if you don't know someone like that, it's probably you. So you have to be careful, because being negative doesn't necessarily mean being truthful. It doesn't. Negativity isn't just making excuses. You can be negative about the real thing, but having that high sense of negativity, pessimistic is another word. People that are overly pessimistic. And I don't believe in being delusionally optimistic. I don't believe in walking around with a smile on your face like the world is perfect, because A, it makes you look psychotic, but B, just having that delusional sense of everything is wonderful. I believe a reasonable approach, but I believe in a reasonable approach mixed with optimism. So negativity is a sin of communication. The next one is cruel judgment. And the reason I wrote cruel judgment and not just judgment, because you should judge people. Absolutely. I think judging people can keep you safe. I think judging people can prevent you from being in a situation that you don't want to be in. Cruel judgment is what I'm talking about as a sin of communication. And cruel judgment is, I'll give you a simple example. Let's say you're at the grocery store and this excessively overweight person is driving around the grocery store on their little motor cart. For you to just immediately cast judgment on that person and then start to, in your mind, or if you're with someone, talk about them in a cruel manner, that's cruel judgment. I don't think you should impose cruel judgment at all, and I think you should be careful with judgment until you understand someone's story. Cruel judgment is so toxic. We see it all the time. Keyboard bullies, all of these idiots in school today, they bully people, in a cruel way. But cruel judgment, when you're trying to step on someone else to make yourself feel better, not a good thing. Next sin of communication is gossip. Gossip, talking in negativity, talking about people, sharing cruel judgment with others, sharing negativity with someone that can't solve the problem. I'm also astonished at how much people fuel themselves on gossip. I think it's right up there with complaining, probably a little higher, because complaining so often gets blended with gossip. But having that sense of gossip, talking about someone when you have no fucking idea what the circumstances are, you just took a snapshot, a moment of a perception or an experience, and then you cast judgment, cruel judgment on this whole thing, and then you go share that with someone and you intoxicate them with your ignorance and with your stupidity, with your negativity, and you kind of share that. And gossip is like throw up. For some reason, people think they feel better after they do it, but it makes everybody around you sick. So gossip, you got to be, don't be doing that. Fuck that. Another sin of communication, cruel silence. Cruel silence, kind of known as the cold shoulder. Let me tell you why I put this one in here, because this used to be one of my tactics. I would get so frustrated that I would just stop communicating, stop talking altogether. And I've been in a relationship. It's really interesting when you're in a relationship and something pisses you off and then you don't speak for them for 3 days. That was my level of immaturity at one point. That was my a very unfortunate sin of communication. That's how I would behave, is just that cruel silence. If you're not willing to communicate it in a manner of emotional discipline, then that just proves how immature you really are. And again, it's so often used as a tactic to control and manipulate other people. Cruel silence. Another sin of communication, yelling. This is something for me, and I put it next to cruel silence for a reason, because it's kind of the opposite. It's not really the opposition of cruel silence is yelling. I'm really, again, kind of like a lot of these, I'm shocked at the behaviors of people and how they believe yelling is a form of communication. believe that yelling is effective. This was something I'm very, very, very familiar with my upbringing. It is yelling, and it's such again, a massive statement of immaturity for communication, is when you have to elevate your volume so much that you are attempting to dominate the other individual, and you're trying to impose fear into them, and you're trying to control the situation or to control the individual through that. So yelling, that also, I will tell you, for me, again, this is kind of a personal thing with me, yelling immediately for me, it escalates to violence very quick. I don't respond well to yelling. I don't think anybody responds well to yelling. I think everybody responds to it differently. But I think if you're yelling at someone, you need to be hit in the mouth very, very violently, because you're so fucking immature and so manipulative and so fear driving that you're just a fucking piece of shit. And it's just, as you can tell, this one really, really fucking resonates with me, and it's a non-negotiable for me. I don't yell at people. If I'm in a position where I have to yell, that means I need to walk away, not in the sense of cruel silence, but I need to remove myself from that situation. The last one I've listed out here in the sins of communication is belittling. When you're attacking someone, when you're verbally assassinating someone, in a sense, to try to make yourself feel bigger, feel better, feel more powerful, feel that you're in control, and you're doing that by just tearing this other person down, by audibly assassinating them. And really, what's interesting about this, and how it kind of magnifies with manipulation, is this is where you start to focus in on people's flaws, people's weaknesses. This is where you do, call people a fat fucking piece of shit. This is where you do call people fucking stupid. This is where you attack them. This is not a healthy communication where you say, hey, we need to have a communication about, your weight. This is where you belittle that individual because of their current state, of the current result of, obviously, of the decisions that they've made. But using that to try to manipulate people, control people, again, to make yourself feel better, it's a very, a very manipulative way. I think it's really interesting, as I kind of go through these here tonight, how many of these are connected to manipulation. And manipulation is when you influence someone to do something for self-gain. That's manipulation. Influence is about getting people to do things for the betterment of themselves and everyone. But that sense of manipulation is so toxic. It's so controlling. It's so conniving. It's such a poor quality. It's a disastrous quality, to be honest. It's very, very toxic. It destroys a lot of relationships, a lot of companies. But so many of these sins of communication are related to manipulation. So as you go through these, I'm going to rattle them off here real quick. Complaining, excuses, lying, dogma, negativity, cruel judgment, gossip, cruel silence, yelling, belittling. Make sure that you're not interjecting these things into your communication. Make sure you're not allowing yourself to fall to this level of ignorance and immaturity when you are in a situation. So make sure you're not falling into these 10 sins of communication. Until next time, get shit done. See you.